right. Welcome back to the Sip My Thoughts podcast. I like to thank everyone for tuning in on this good Saturday evening. And today I have a really cool guest, really organic. We just kind of connected on Twitter, and I just kind of scrolled his timeline. And uh, obviously, I think the thing that caught my attention was his tweet about what Deion Sanders will be bringing to Jackson State if he continues to remain at Jackson State. You know, what it could mean for our city and community. Obviously, I am from Jackson, Mississippi. And if you've been listening, you would know that. But again, really dope conversation that I'm really looking forward to having. Uh, and I think his name on Twitter just really just embodies who he is, and I'm just really looking forward to learning more. So I have my guest, Mr. Pray or Die, on the podcast this evening. So this is minister. Is it minister or pastor? Which one should I call you?
You call
Pastor.
pastor fans. I'm not really big on titles, man. I think one of the things that has driven me is that my students, everyone called me the coolest preacher, the coolest pastor, man. So I kind of embody that, just like you say, organic, man. Just be a normal dude, man, but have an extraordinary message that help the uplift. And in between, talk some sports, some HBCUs, and talk about some real life challenges, real life issues that challenges that we have in the African American community.
Definitely. So this is Pastor Eric Vance. First of all, if you guys didn't hear that, so like I said, we connected on Twitter. I saw the tweet about Deion Sanders first, but I think a lot of the content that's on his page also is really thought evoking, and really some of the questions and stuff that I'm gonna ask tonight are things that I'm really interested in as far as learning from him and perspectives. Also, I mean, one of the things about this podcast is I love varying perspectives, having, really good dialogue that addresses things that we tend to experience in our community. So I think the first thing that really caught my attention about you was the name Pray or Die. So, how did you come up with that name and what does it mean to you? I think people would think that it's self-explanatory, but I think it can obviously mean a bunch of different things to, whoever it is. So what does Pray or Die mean to you?
Man, that's funny. It's a double entendre, man. Either you get it from the beginning. Some people like, wow, that's so heavy. I get it. Like, the Bible says, pray without ceasing. Man should always pray. Prayer is equivalent to us breathing. For those who have a spiritual compass, I started a movement when I was at Clark Atlanta. My short stint at Clark Atlanta. Oh man, every bit of 2006, 2007. And I started a prayer movement that was a spinoff of the Voter Die movement, the Trapper Die movement. And I wanted to make spirituality cool and hip in a way that would draw young people at that time. So prayer has been important to me in my family, me being a Southern boy at heart. I think that the success and the things that I've accomplished and the things that I've overcome has been by the power of prayer. Prayer is my lifeline. And I mean, it's just a harsh truth. If you don't pray, then you're going to die spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. And everything who we are is kind of like we use a cell phone on a daily basis. But in order for that cell phone to be strong, you have to plug it up in a socket. It has to be connected to the power source. But when you pull it from that power source, right, when you're playing on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you out throughout your day, that phone begin to die because it's not connected to the source. We are the same way when we're connected to God through prayer. So the instant we disconnect ourselves from God and we're not praying, there's a saying that says 7 days without prayer makes 1 week. And that's pretty much it. When you're not connected to God in prayer, then you begin to, a sad truth. You're dying spiritually. So that's pretty much who I am in that movement. And that username has allowed me to travel, speak, host young adult revivals, speak at conferences, and so forth. It's carried me into pastorate, senior pastorate, and to where I am now.
Cool. That's profound. So I'm just wondering if the way that maybe you were raised, I've one of the unique things about our community are, is pretty much built on the foundation of strong Black women, strong Black grandmothers and things like that. So the foundation into who you are today, obviously, I know that comes from your mom. As far as where you are specifically at this particular point in time. But I'm just wondering the foundation that you were raised on. Do you think that just kind of helped you into who you are today, not only as a man, but as a minister and as a pastor also?
Oh yeah, I mean, man, my grandma used to maybe get like on this church van and stuff, and
Yeah.
kids used to laugh at me for going to church all the time. Like I used to duck on this church van and stuff, like, and I
Yeah.
felt like embarrassed as a child. But what my grandma was doing was, you said the key word, building a foundation.
Mhm.
And even when I understand just sitting under the word, being around people who saw something in me, who pushed academia, education, and all of these things that it wasn't so hip at the time. Little did I know it was building a foundation for me to be a man of integrity, a man of character, a man of treating people right, and just being a model citizen in the world. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm a Southern boy. Jackson is similar to South Carolina. Grandmama house. Everybody meet at grandmama house. Eat on Sundays. We meet, family meet at church. Even if we don't see each other throughout the week, we see each other at church on Sunday. That's how it is down south.
Definitely. Definitely. So when did you realize that this was your calling? Like this was what you were supposed to be doing in life?
Man, probably at an early age. I've always been intrigued by church. So when I would go to church, I always kind of like want to help in the church. So, kind of usher, pass out flyers one day. And it just gave me joy passing out, the program for the day, or helping in the back of the church. And then I got the opportunity. It started when um one of the elders gave me an opportunity to pray at church. So when I start praying in church, people used to ask me, it used to move the whole church. People used to ask me, who taught that boy how to pray? Who taught you how to pray? And there was nothing logically that I could express, because no one taught me how to pray. It was just innately in me,
Mhm.
and God's hand on me. And it was just the essence of who I was and what God had called me to be. So probably at a tender early age of 12, maybe.
Right. So being who you are today in the ministry, I'm just wondering, what do you think about the church today? What do you think about um there is a pretty big and there's research that I'm sure that you've also seen as well in regards to I think something along the lines of millennials, leaving the church and you know just establishing a relationship with God. However they decide to go about doing that. So I'm just wondering, what do you think about all that? I mean, do you
It's,
think
it's
millennials are leaving the church, and what's the cause if so?
it's funny you said that, because me and my sisters, we had a strong debate last night. I said both of us are millennials. I'm just an upper millennial. She's a younger millennial.
Mhm.
But we was talking about how when our grandma and moms were going to church, the way that they grew church through the emotionalism, a lot of the what they call in the academy ring shouting, and a form of preaching in a black church we call hooping, where you
Yeah.
can sing and preach in a melodic kind of way.
Right.
Um, that's kind of foreign to the new generation. The way that my grandmama them, and there's nothing wrong with it. It was hot and it was popular and trending during their times.
Mhm.
But now we live in a generation where it's an iPhone driven generations has gotten smarter. The hooping and that form of what touched grandma and them, we live in an information driven society now where millennials, we want to be taught. We want to know that you really broke down the text, that you did your exegetical work. Like, tell me something new. Teach me how to make this thing work for me. So um both works, both of them work. It's just a lapse in generation, different generations. So what worked for them, it may not work for where we are right now. Kind of like the flip phone. My grandma, she just love a flip phone. Even though all of us have iPhones, my grandma loves a flip phone. There's nothing wrong with it. A flip phone, it can still do make phone calls. But I like an iPhone. An iPhone is almost like a computer. It can give me maps. I can do my budgeting on it. I can do PDF forms. Like an iPhone just do more. And millennials has left the church because millennials are looking for the more.
Mm, that's different. That's different. I think you pretty much broke it down. I think another reason some millennials are leaving the church is because I I don't know. I think one of the interesting things about today is that and I'm only 31, but I remember growing up. Um, the pastors weren't flashy. They weren't. Um, I don't know. I feel like today, obviously, as time goes on, generations change, things change. But I think today, and I'm not speaking for myself, but just from the conversations that I hear, um, I think there's a perception that pastors are uh, looking more so at what they can gain, more so than pouring into their congregation the way that people feel that they should. So I think today there are so many more means where you see pastors are making exorbitant amounts of money, and I think that's something that can turn people off, just based on things that I've seen and read and conversations that I see people having on these social media platforms. Um, One of the things that I really find interesting about you, I mean, obviously it means Saturday, so I didn't expect you to be in like a suit and tie or anything like that. But even though I haven't met you physically, you give me a vibe of being down to earth, being approachable. And I just think that that's something that millennials, I would say, I think when they look at most pastors, like they see the flash, the way that they're living and stuff like that, and I think that could probably be something that's turning them off from
Mm.
going to the church or listening to pastors in particular. How are you bridging the gap as far as meeting people where they are? Like, there's a video on your Twitter page I saw where you had like over 100 black men praying and stuff like that, and it looks like all ages, so like it didn't really matter. So it looks like you're meeting everyone where they are. So how are you going about doing that?
Yes, that event was when I was a campus pastor at Clark Atlanta University, and it was an initiative that me and the SGA president and other movements on campus, we decided to come together and talk about black men and mental health, and pretty much the desensitize the stigma that comes with mental health, and to come together and say, man, guys, if you guys are going through something, look at all of these brothers here from Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Morris Brown, and the seminaries on campus. We all coming together as one unit and one voice. Most importantly, to show brotherhood and to pray for one another, but to let you know that you are alone. You don't have to go out of here and do anything foolish, because we're going to build this community around each other. And you have that shoulder to lean on. Community is a big deal to me. But what makes me relatable is that I'm relying on the same grace and mercy just like the next person. we all are believing God and trusting God for something. So I'm no better than nobody else in my eyes. You know, I think all of us, our assignments are different in life, but we all are relying on God's blood, His strength, His word, and I never want to be puffed up or walk around high and mighty where I can't be touchable and relatable to the people. Jesus, even though He was the incarnation of God in the flesh, He walked around hand to hand with the people. He went on a Gulfstream jet. He didn't preach and He didn't run and he went a televangelist. You know, he was hand in hand walking with the people in the street, in the hood, in the rough places where He was needed the most. And I try to model my life after the life of Jesus, man. Just really being a person of love and a person of integrity and character. That's a big deal to me.
Definitely. What type of how do I think you said something really interesting there, and I just wonder, how do obviously black men of all ages, but I feel like we're living in a time now where um we as a people have always been under attack, I would say, by a myriad of different things. Um, I feel like now that I'm of age, I'm aware of what's going on around me, what's going on in the world, and things like that. Um, I feel like now we're all hyper aware of the things that's happening around us, and I'm just wondering from a black man standpoint, how are younger black men kind of gravitating towards you again? Because we just kind of talked about how relatable, down to earth, and you're not walking around like you're all high and mighty and things like that. I'm just wondering, how can we gravitate um, more so to men like yourself, and how it's just a kind of just finding your way along in the world and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, how can we go about, meeting more relatable men, even men in the ministry, um, to a point to where, it's kind of like we're all like on the same playing field. Like, even though you're a pastor, and I'm not a pastor, but we still have shared experiences. So I'm just wondering, how can we just, I guess, kind of come together and just kind of learn more from one another, if that
Man,
makes sense.
there's a popular song by J. Cole. It's called "Pride Is the Devil." And a lot of time when it comes to men and working together, it's an issue of pride and ego. The
Mhm.
word ego, I love it when you break it down in an acronym. It simply means edging God out. Anytime that you puff yourself up and you walk around in ego, that means you're walking in the flesh and you've edged God out of the equation. So that's the only thing that hinders us working together as men, coming together as a community, coming together to advance our culture. A lot of that be pride and ego. So once again, I have friends from all walks of life. I have friends who are church. I have friends who are unchurched. I have people who are saved. I have friends who are shown up from the urban community, some real head busters.
Yeah,
But I just try to be who I am, man.
right.
My friends who are unchurched, they say, man, you know how many times your slogan has changed my life when I want to do something crazy? I just think about your slogan at PrayOrDie, your t-shirt, or just your slogan and who you are alone has literally like saved my life. But most importantly, I rock with you, Vance, because you know how I live. You know I'm out doing X, Y, and Z. You just never really judged me. And I really feel like that's not my responsibility to judge nobody. My responsibility is to love people with the love of Christ.
Mhm.
And as I love people with the love of Christ, God has a way with his own power how to snatch people up and turn them around. We all have a God nature on the inside of us, meaning that uh, we all know right from wrong. You don't need nobody to beat you on the head with a Bible and say, you're doing wrong. Jokers know when they're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to just, show love and be true. And
Right.
people respect you when you're walking in your most authentic self without pretense. Everybody can sense. That's one thing that you can't hide. People know when you're real and people know if you're fake. And I just decide to just try to be true with who I am and stand up for what I believe in.
Definitely. One of the things, and being that you're pastor, I'm glad that I have you on here because I would be lying if I told you that, and I think everyone who identifies as a Christian, I think we can all agree that, the walk in life isn't easy. I think for me, one of the things that I tell my parents all the time is I feel like they did a good job of shielding me from the world as long as they possibly could. And what I mean by that is that, you grow up under their umbrella and, they're doing everything possible to ensure that, when you step out of those doors and you're no longer in their presence, then, you are walking out of the door with a sense of protection. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my mama tell me all the time that she's praying for me and stuff like that. And even my dad too, and my great grandmother when she was living as well. But I noticed that when I turned, I think I was 23. Uh, when you started to learn about, like Trayvon Martin and stuff like that, and then you started to learn about, how police officers were killing us, and police brutality and everything. And up until the point until that trial, I feel like that was something that I had never seen personally with my own two eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to school and you learn about this stuff. Then you learn more so about the history of this country, and all the all the different stuff that the government has done. In regards to even turning us against each other and stuff like that. The sovereignty commission and stuff like that. These were things. I went to a historically black college, and I never learned anything about the sovereignty commission. I knew nothing about that really until I got to graduate school. But it just kind of shows you, the Bible tells you to love your neighbor and, everything. And I feel like when you see the way that people live their lives, I guess I'll just say like police officers or conservatives or whatever. I just find it interesting that, and maybe you see it also. So you look in there and, that if something ignorant comes across your timeline on Twitter or something, let's say for an example, if you look in this person's bio, their
Mm-hmm.
bio has Christian in the bio, right?
Uh,
And when you pay attention to the things that they do and their behavior and the way that they say certain things about people who don't look like them, I don't know if it's anybody else, but it makes me wonder. Okay, are we serving the same God? Because you over here doing something completely different, unless your interpretation of however that looks to you is different than what it looks like to me. So basically what I'm saying, or what I'm
I,
asking you, is that as a pastor, your walk as a pastor and as a Christian, when you see these things happening in the world, do you not become like perturbed and disturbed by any of it? I'm just wondering from a pastor's perspective. I always wanted to ask this question, so I'm just wondering how you look at things.
I know
When you
what you're talking
like,
about, man. Going to call a spade a spade. You talking about ratchet Twitter, right? The ratchet Twitter that got the scriptures in the bio,
this
but
that and this,
else.
you look at these, and I'll just say it. You look at these white elected officials, and you look about some of the stuff that they tweet about, and then you just click on their profile, and their bio says Christian, and that bothers me. It honestly, because
It
it's
means
just like
praying to the same God.
exactly.
I
I'll be confused.
a totally different and
Mm-hmm.
Man, that is a good thought. I know me personally, I can't attest for anyone else. Um, I don't believe that our faith should be mixed with political agendas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are my personal sentiments. I don't believe that political agendas should be you know spewed from the pulpit. I think you keep with kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the message. The only thing that I promote the gospel of love, hope, inspiration, uplifting, encouragement. I'm not debating with nobody over vaccine versus unvaccinated. I'm not arguing with you about Democrat versus Republican. I'm not arguing about who
Right.
from north and who from down south.
Right.
Y'all set out on your own.
Yeah.
I'm here to uplift, encourage, to debate about some sports or some barbershop talk
Right. Right.
about who made how many all-star teams or
Yeah.
what program is doing what, but I don't mess in that, you know. My
Yeah.
granddaddy deep down in the country say grown folks gonna do what grown folks gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I keep it in the back of my mind. Grown folks gonna do what they want to do. So I can't shift or change. I don't have the power or the energy to do so.
Right.
I'll spread the message of hope and inspiration. And if they ask, then I introduce them to my hope and my savior.
Definitely. That's cool. That's cool. It was just something that I always wanted to, ask like a pastor who's actively, preaching the word of God and things like that. Because I just always thought that was interesting. It just seems like it's blasphemous to me. But like you said, or like your granddaddy said, grown folks gonna do what they gonna do. So that's what it is. So we
My
can leave it there.
dad had the best one-liners, man.
Yeah.
And even though he gone, I could just be sitting and I could just hear something he told me, man, in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, I ain't going back and forth with y'all,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. You can't. You'll be all day doing it. You can't. You can't.
I'm not, man.
Yeah. So obviously, you're super into sports also, and you've also taught at some historically black colleges and universities as well. So to you, what does the HBCU mean to you personally, and just with all of the hype and attention around HBCUs at the moment, like how do you feel like we can use that to our advantage?
Man, I mean, I'm so HBCU. I got it on black colleges, man. It's
Yeah.
us. It's um it gives us a way that we can learn outside of a systemic type of way that's not of our culture. We could learn biblical text in a black way. We can learn historical content in a black way. We can learn mathematics in a black way. It's our way to connect to our roots. HBCUs is a big deal to myself and a lot of people. So I'm always push HBCUs and recommend and give those who are in high school post-secondary options. Yeah, I know you hear about Duke. I know you hear about Florida State. I know you hear about UGA, but you know, put some Jackson States on the table, put Spelman on the table, put Morehouse, put Clark on the table. You know, there's nothing with bringing some balance to the table. You know, I can't
Absolutely.
make you do what you're gonna do, but let's compare some apple to apple where
Mhm.
you can make a sound, solid decision.
Definitely. I think for me personally, I know one of the things my mom said, like, we ain't paying no out of state tuition, so you gonna have to choose. No, they put it to me just like that. And I was okay with that. There wasn't anywhere really out of state that I had really looked at anyway. That I would just really wanted to go to or anything like that. So I was cool with that. Um, but obviously now I think that obviously before Deion Sanders got to Jackson State, HBCUs and those in our community, obviously we know what HBCUs mean to us. It's our safe haven. It's a place where we can go and we can be ourselves unapologetically, and no one will judge you for that. And now it's like it's hiding. I mean, I just feel like he's such a magnetic personality to where now it's not just Jackson State, and obviously it's never just been Jackson State. But I just feel like there is a certain level of attention on all HBCUs at this particular moment. And I know you had a tweet out the other day where you were
What
talking about the type of
numbers
impact.
too, man.
Yeah.
Did numbers. I said, man, this one didn't touch the hearts of the people. I
Yeah.
remember Deion Sanders is my all-time favorite athlete, first and foremost.
Mhm.
And I just been watching how when Deion came to Jackson State, it kind of the timing worked out where the HBCUs had a spring season where they was catching up from the COVID year.
Mhm.
So that worked in Deion's favor because it wasn't much football going on. So that entire season was on national TV.
Right.
So when that season, the shortened season was on national TV, I started seeing HBCUs getting national attention like they've never gotten before.
Exactly.
Like it or love it, or no matter how you feel about Deion Sanders, this didn't happen to prime time Deion Sanders game.
Mm-hmm.
Call us, but you might get NBC might do the Bio Classic every other year. They might commit to it once every 5 years. But let's just call a spade a spade. Since Deion stepped foot on Jackson State Stadium in their campus, he became a economical stimulus packet to the entire
Exactly.
HBCU world. Because now
Yep.
you got Shaw University, North Carolina A&T,
Mm-hmm.
HBCUs you didn't know much about. South Carolina State games on TV. You
Mm-hmm.
just seeing all these different schools, and that's the prime time event.
Right. Yep.
That's who he sell. That's who he vote. When he show up, he's always promoted that. When I show up, things change because I'm prime time.
Definitely.
It's
Definitely.
just a markability, and it's been a beautiful thing to watch. But now here's the debate. Here's the new debate. You got some people saying, Deion really wanted that Florida State job. He didn't get the Florida State job. Some people say Deion is all about himself.
Mm-hmm.
People say some people think he using the HBCU to get to a TCU, to get to a Florida State. And I'm
Right.
like, man, I would hope not, because if he just plant his feet in the sand, he can do what hasn't been done before in the timing and the area with social media, with mass media communication, the spotlight. Eddie Robinson, he didn't have that capability
Right.
because they didn't have iPhones. They didn't have everybody punching at the click of a second. And I think Deion could really level the playing field
Mm-hmm.
if he stay.
Yeah. I agree. I think with him coming to, obviously, like I said, I'm from Jackson. I think with him coming to Jackson State specifically, obviously you don't know how long he's going to be there, but I think my whole thing is Jackson is a city with so much promise, and with it being the capital of Mississippi, and obviously, I just want my city to do good. I want my city to be what I know it can be. So I'm just the way that I'm looking at it. Obviously, like everybody's on the Jackson State bandwagon at this particular point in time. For me, I want the city to be able to utilize his presence and his energy in a efficient fashion. So when he does decide to leave, the economic value, like you said, the economic stimulus package, the economic value that he's brought to that city and the university, I just want my city to continue to, go up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, my whole thing is just, you're hoping that the mayor and the city councilman are being good stewards of this economic stimulus package because it's undeniable. I was just before we jumped on, I was talking to one of my friends, and I think he was telling me about it. He was reading a report that says, and he hasn't. I think he's well, no, in January. January will officially be his 1 year on the job. Obviously, he had a spring season, but it didn't really count. But
Mm-hmm.
January will be a year that he's been on the job. My friend was telling me he was reading an article that said that he had already brought like over $100 million like worth of, it might not necessarily be revenue, but like marketing dollars and stuff like that to the institution. And I
Mm-hmm.
just think that's insane when you think about it. But you have an icon as a head coach. So it's not really far fetched, I would say, to think that that's the type of economic impact that he's having. But when I saw your tweet, that's how I think more so the lines. I'm not just thinking about right now. I'm thinking about the long term effects that his presence can have, not just on Jackson State, but HBCUs in general.
I mean, he's a coach, but he's got, with him being there, he's doing what a president of a university should do by increasing endowment. The
Exactly.
more that people tweeting about you, the more you get these TV games, the more that you get these money games, that these high profile type games. People are looking at the spotlight that's on Jackson State, and kids are saying, "I want to go to Jackson State." People who were once want to go to FAMU, the Morehouse, to go to yeah, all of those things are cool, but let's just call a spade a spade. People want to go somewhere. My school playing on TV.
Right.
My school plan, yeah, your school cool, and I know your school got the history, but right
Mhm.
now in the moment, my school is playing on TV.
Mhm.
My coach is Deion Sanders. We have programs. Our program is growing. Our school is growing. All of this funding is coming into the school. We getting top tier sponsorships. The economic value of the region, jobs are being increased in the area. Everybody want to be a part of a movement and something growing, something that's moving forward. And Jackson State has that ability to continue to surge and go higher and higher.
Exactly. I don't think and I did a pod on this also. When all the rumors about TCU was coming out and stuff like that, it never really moved me. And it didn't move me because TCU isn't a destination job. Like TCU isn't like a step up job. Can you name the most famous alum from TCU?
LaDainian Tomlinson, about
That's
the
it.
only Hall of Famer that I could think of at the top of my head.
And that's it. So what is the Jackson State has four Hall of Famers. When I
Drop 'em,
say Hall of Famers, I'm talking about pro football Hall of Famers.
drop the names on me.
Um, you caught me off guard.
Name-
Ooh.
I just, I just don't know, and I love the.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find them for you really quick. But yeah, it's let me see. Jackson State. Look, it's crazy. You type in Google and the first that it come up immediately. That is called the prime effect. Let's see. NFL Hall of Famers. Okay, so you got Lim Barney, you got Walter Payton. I don't know how I forgot Sweetness off the top of my head. Robert Brazil and Jackie Slater. Those are those are the four Hall of Famers from Pro Football Hall of Famers.
Hey, hold on 1 second.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey man, we just kicking it, man. I think he had to jump off really quick, but he'll be back on momentarily. But yeah, man, this is a conversation. It's interesting meeting. And when you watch this on YouTube, you'll see that Pastor Vance is more so of a younger brother, and I just think that he brings something different. And I mean, if you're a member of his congregation, I definitely think that just by the type of conversation that me and him are having at this particular moment, I'm sure that he's equally as engaging while he's in the pulpit. And I just think that that's important. I mean, today you just have to meet people where they are. One of the things about life is always evolving, things are always changing, and you can't look at them from the same vantage point that maybe our parents once looked at them, or even, their parents looked at it. Things are always changing. So you got to do stuff that you've never done before in order to get places that you've never been. And I think that applies to anything and any facet in life. In order for the church to, gain, younger, either millennials or, Generation Z, obviously they're coming along at this particular point in time, but you got to meet people where they are, and you have to do different stuff in order to attract people. So that's one of the things that I definitely think Pastor Vance is doing, and I think that's going to be really interesting as far as the type of person and pastor that he is. So here we are. He's coming right back on right now. Let's see. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yup.
Got you.
My bad, man. My had a little technical difficulties, but
Oh,
we back
no.
in the game, man. I like that
Yeah.
transition. That was smooth, man.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, so as far as the TCU job, it's not a destination job. So I never really felt like he was going to leave. If he was going to leave Jackson State, obviously the USC job. Now that is a destination job. So if you're going to leave Jackson State, you would leave Jackson State for a job like that, not TCU.
Yeah.
So I never really thought much about a TCU job.
And then I thought about it like this. I'm like, okay, he got two of his boys came over to follow him. I don't believe as a father he would bring his boys over to TCU and burn out on them and leave them stuck. And they say his daughter's coming to Jackson State as well. So it's evident that Deion said it's a calling from God. He said this
Mhm.
just ain't a coaching job. He said
Mhm.
he has an abundance of money. They could never pay him his worth. He say he's at HBCUs as a calling from God. But I want to dig deeper into this conversation. I said I believe that the markability, the marketing sense, this whole prime time, this prime time figure that he's made. It wouldn't surprise me with all of the realignment of these different conferences right now. I really believe that with ticket sales, memorabilia, um, the economic value that Dion is bringing to an area, Jackson is the capital of Mississippi. Um, it makes a Jackson a target. I think it makes Jackson a target for a mid-major to give them a look and say,
Mhm.
hey, this school can make our conference stronger.
Right.
They are selling tickets. They are getting good quality games. They have an icon down as a coach. But then the argument is what does that do to the SWAC?
Mhm.
Um,
I was just thinking that.
what does that do to the SWAC? I wouldn't want Jackson State to go up by themselves.
Mhm.
I would love to see a FAMU, a Gremlin, and a Southern, maybe four go up.
Definitely.
I like that idea because I would love to see an HBCU compete with the PWIs and to get good quality money games. We're
Mhm.
getting TV time right now, but I don't think the HBCUs are getting those money games that you would get if you play against a Florida State, if you play against an Ole Miss, if you play against a Southern Miss. That's a different type of money game that can help grow your program, get you the top tier weight room, to get you the top tier facilities where the athletes could live in. That just business wise, it takes it to a whole different and people say, so how does that affect the SWAC? It doesn't affect the SWAC. You just move up Clark Atlanta, the smaller D2 HBCUs. Now you move them up to D1 HBCUs. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now they have a chance. Now they playing in the SWAC. Now they get more money games that would be greater than playing against a Miles or playing against a Fort Valley or Albany State. You see what I'm saying?
Right. I think the historical context is what is kind of turning people off. And when I say turning people off, most HBCUs, well, I can't, well, I won't speak for most HBCUs. The lack of funding is an issue. Now, even with the, so that everybody or both teams that goes to the Celebration Bowl, I think both teams get $1 million check. And that $1 million check can do wonders for the athletic department as far as continuing the initiatives they have set. I know Jackson State is looking at building their own campus stadium and getting out of Mississippi Veterans Memorial, which is partially. I don't want to. I could be wrong, but I think it's partially owned by Jackson State, and I believe that the city owns it also. And I know the former governor was trying to basically encourage Jackson State to, build a stadium on their campus, so that I don't know if they were trying to. I think they're trying to demolish Mississippi Veterans Memorial in order to create more parking and more things for the hospital and stuff. That's literally right there, also. But I think when you think about the historical context, I think what would turn people off about it is that if you have 4 teams that leave the SWAC, for an example, and let's say they move up to like Conference USA or something like that, where does that leave the rest of the SWAC? Then where does that leave the rest of the SWAC as far as the historical games and the natural rivalries that's played every year? I think that's something that people will kind of be turned off by also. But I think there's something that you can work around that. Like you can still schedule those games.
Yeah, them games still stay. That's period. That's tradition. Those don't move. But for me, as a fan of the sport, a fan of the HBCU, and this just barbershop talk right now.
Yeah,
I'd love to see, because I know Jackson State can beat Raging Cajuns. They can beat La Tech. They can beat Georgia Southern. They can beat, some schools who are mid-majors. And I think they deserve a shot to say, hey, yeah, I know y'all gonna put Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, and all of them. You gonna give them a run every year. You're gonna give them a shot. But why not us? We deserve a chance too.
right.
And that playing field don't get leveled unless there's a realignment in the conferences. It'll be a good thing to see as the playoffs expand to an 18, 12 team playoff team. You'd be like, boy, my HBCU, they up there and they playing with your Florida States. They playing with your Clemsons. Why not us, bro? I understand the SWAC means so much to us. But if we really want to talk about that level in the playing field, boy, that'd be a great day on earth. This year, HBC sitting up there with your Power Fives, your Big Tens and SECs and ACCs. And I think we deserve that opportunity for the struggle, for all that we've been through, us being oppressed and suppressed, and all that we've been through as people. That'll be monumental.
I agree. I just think there are some logistical concerns that can get in the way of it, but and I think you have to be honest with knowing where HBCUs are, just as far as economic viability and stuff like that is concerned. I mean, obviously, we just saw what happened in Howard University, with those students protesting about, the type of conditions and things like that they were living in. And you just think about the fact that if they, if they're good, if their football team was to the point and to the level of, let's say, what Jackson State is right now, and let's say that they continued that momentum for like the next 5 years or something like that. Then they moved into one of those conferences, and then the money really starts to flowing in. And then some of the biggest issues that your institution is facing, that money is alleviating those issues a lot quickly than they are at this particular point in time. So I think that's the most attractive thing about it. The more revenue for your institution to thrive and not be in the red. I think that's the most important part about it. So
But you
really,
know what I'm scared of?
what's
With
that?
prime time being so much of a brand name and the rapid success that he's having, I think that success can come back and shoot him in the butt too. Because I'm scared your Ole Misses or your Southern Miss or your Georgia Southerns or Georgia State. I'm scared they won't play Dion.
Yeah,
Cause they don't want it to be said that an all black school beat you.
true, true. But I think some of them are arrogant enough to think that, oh, they're not finna come up in here and beat us. Little do you know,
Yeah,
on any given Saturday,
yeah,
it can happen.
it can happen.
And it would be monumental. It would be everywhere, and it will only increase his legend and the legend of the institution as well. That's going to be something that'll be talked about forever. So I think that his celebrity is big enough, but I think there are coaches out there who would be arrogant enough to think that, oh, well, he don't have the type of horses that we got, and they're not gonna come in here and beat us. So they will allow their confidence or arrogance to allow them to schedule Jackson State. And then if it happens, then what? They don't have an excuse. There will be nothing that they will be able to say.
But
The only
think
thing
about this,
is
bro.
Jackson State beat them.
Think about this. When it comes to the recruiting trail, ain't nobody gonna be able to beat Dion. He
Definitely
got
not
the
right now.
mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
He can pretty much tell kids why not come to a HBCU now. Y'all cried about we don't play on TV. We play on TV all the time. Now
Mm-hmm.
we have this NIL deal going. Your image, your likeness. You getting pretty much paid now. And then I'm a Hall of Famer. I can get on the phone and call Jerry Jones. I can get on the phone and
Exactly.
call such and such. You gonna get a shot at it. If you put the numbers up, you gonna get a shot at the NFL. I can't promise you that, but I can promise Dion can get you in the combine.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
why not us? Dion ain't nobody gonna be able to beat Dion when it comes to recruiting.
Right. I don't know if you saw. We just had the number one recruit in the country was in Jackson this past not this past weekend. Yeah, this past weekend, last weekend for the
Oh
Summer
wow.
Bowl. The number one recruit in the country was,
Wow.
was in Jackson, Mississippi last weekend.
Wow. Now have y'all gotten any 4 stars or 5 stars yet? I'm pretty
On the
sure.
roster, yeah.
Yeah.
Rucker is a 4-star. Cornelius Miller was a 4-star. Um, his son obviously was a 4-star. Shadur.
He the
Uh,
one. That's the golden child.
yeah,
He the
yeah,
one, and he's a freshman, right?
yep,
He the one.
yeah.
He the one. And y'all, he gonna have to play 2 more years because you got to be 3
Mhm,
years removed from high school to go to the
mhm,
league.
yep.
So yeah, he the one.
Yeah, shoot, he got a bunch of 4-stars. This past year. Um, I'm waiting to see which 5-star is gonna, is gonna buck, buck that trail and just decide to do something different.
Yeah.
Go against the grain. Now, here's the interesting thing about Travis Hunter, and he's the guy I was just telling you about, the number 1 recruit in the country. He turned down visits to Alabama, and I want to say he turned down a visit. There was somewhere else he turned down a visit to, because he was just, for some reason, he was just so keyed in on Florida State. And I don't know if that's because of Deion, because Deion played there, but for you to turn down a visit to Alabama, and I think the second school might have been LSU, for him to turn down both of those, but for him to take a trip to Jackson State, I don't know if he's gonna be the first 5-star. And again, he is the number 1 player in the country. So
Man,
I don't know if he's gonna be the first, but if he is, wow.
he got y'all in the mix. He
Wow.
got y'all in the mix. Man, and nowadays, man, times are just different. Just what we talked about, the social media world. And I mean, you can go anywhere now and go to the league because they can
Exactly.
find you easily to be found. You
Mhm.
know, it don't matter if you go to a SEC, ACC, so forth, because there's so many outlets to be visible nowadays.
Here's the thing, though, and I think this is something that we got to be honest about also. I remember a few years ago, even before right now, but even before Deion was hired, this was probably like 3 years ago, there were conversations about, obviously, police brutality and things like that were at a high at that particular point in time. You got protests and everything, and there were so many calls of people saying that, our athletes need to return back to our institutions and things like that. And I vividly remember, um, I'll never forget. I saw a parent on Facebook, a black parent,
Mhm.
talking about if um and he wasn't speaking. Dion wasn't even thinking about HBCU at this particular point in time, but he was just saying that, like, they would never send their child to an HBCU over an SEC school, because I guess they just felt like you are a lot more likely at the SEC school to go to the league than you are if you go to an HBCU. And I think now that conversation is kind of shifting, because for some reason, I just think we think that other people's water is colder than ours. And we have to go to these institutions and, go through all the other stuff that they put you through, instead of going, where you're wanted, where you're valued, where you're appreciated, where you're not just a number, where you're not just, something that the alumni with the deep pockets can tout when they're, at their little meetings and stuff, and they're talking amongst themselves and stuff like that. But I feel like we need a mindset change also. We also need to realize that you can go, like you said, you can go anywhere that's not Power Five, and you can be seen, and you can make it to the league. There are so many examples of that in the NFL, but for some reason, our mindsets just haven't caught up to that yet.
Well, I think it is right now where these boys are getting online and letting it be known. Oh, I can go anywhere in the country. I
Mhm,
just chose to go to a HBCU because that's
mhm,
my choice.
mhm.
That's what I wanted to do. And an HBCU don't mean that it's less than. It's just I want to go to a HBCU to expand culture, to learn more about my culture and to be around my people, and to if me being on campus and being on a team, if income gonna be coming into something off of my ability, it might as well be, support black.
Mm-hmm.
Support black.
Psychology. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I hope we get there though. Like I hope we can break that mindset because obviously, you got the parents that are going to make the decision or push their child into a certain direction. But I just think that Deion Sanders, his just him as an individual, just like he's like a shadow that just looms over the program. And it's just like you can have offers from USC, Penn State, Alabama, Florida State.
Hey, Miles. You good?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, we back. I think my internet blanked for a minute.
So, man, you from Jackson? You live in Jackson now?
No, I live in Dallas.
So, man, this is what I'm gonna tell you, man. You're the first person I told. I haven't even put it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Been doing a lot of back and forth, flying back and forth to Dallas, Fort Worth area, and so forth. So the next season of my life will be in that area, man.
Really?
I just got called to a church in Fort Worth.
Okay.
It'll be the biggest leap of faith that I've ever made in my life, man.